Steve Hunger. I am the Customer Experience Manager here at Kinney Group for Atlas and for Expertise on Demand. So today we're going to have another Lunch and Learn in our monthly Lunch and Learn series. And Eric Holsinger is going to deliver this introduction to the Dashboard Studio. So with that, Eric, I'm handing it over to you.
All right, thank you, Steve. Like he said, I'm Eric Holsinger. I'm a Splunk analyst on the Atlas Customer Experience team. And we are going to look at the introduction to Dashboard Studio, so we can go ahead and get it started. So to start with, Dashboard Studio is Splunk's new way of handling dashboards. They still have classic dashboards, but Dashboard Studio is kind of the future of dashboarding within Splunk. It was released to the general audience with version 8.2 a little over a year ago. It's using JSON formatting in the backend compared to XML of classic dashboards. And like I said, it is new, and Splunk is continually adding new features. They're supporting it, trying to get that feature parity with classic dashboards while also adding new features on top of that. And the biggest difference is that Dashboard Studio allows for a lot greater customization and flexibility when compared to classic dashboards, which is a little more rigid. And so a couple of the differences between the Dashboard Classic and Dashboard Studio, like I mentioned, XML versus JSON based. Classic supports third-party visualizations, whereas right now Studio does not. And Studio supports using shapes, lines, icons, text boxes, and images within the dashboard, which is something Classic does not yet, or does not. Trellis visualizations are in Classic, not in Dashboard Studio yet. And like I mentioned, Classic dashboards a little more rigid row column layout, whereas Dashboard Studio, you have two layouts to choose between, and I'll discuss those a little bit more in depth in a minute. But absolute and grid layouts allow for more flexibility. Classic dashboards, you can only export in PDF format. Studio, you can export in PDF or PNG format. You can export your dashboard that way, whichever way works better for your situation. And Dashboard Studio is pretty easy to find. Whenever you're creating a dashboard, just like anytime you create a dashboard, you'll get this modal that pops up. You'll get an option to choose Classic Dashboard or Dashboard Studio. It's as simple as clicking Dashboard Studio, and then it asks you to select your layout mode. So you have Absolute and Grid, and we can go ahead and show you that Absolute is kind of what you think about whenever you think Dashboard Studio. It's the one that allows you a lot more flexibility, a lot more customization options. Grid is kind of more of a half step between Classic and the Absolute. So really, today during our demo, we're only going to be looking at Absolute because it's really the main draw of Dashboard Studio. You can change the background color, put background images, change the canvas size, shapes, icons, those kind of things are only available in Absolute. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. And we're about to hop into a demo here. But just to show you real quick, and this is the editing toolbar. You'll see this pretty much at all times when you're editing dashboard in Dashboard Studio. It's kind of where you're going to add your visualizations, inputs, icon shapes, images, any markdown text, and configuration and data overview are going to be very important. And then you have the source code editor, which is a little bit more advanced, but we are going to work on some of that at the end of the presentation. But we can go ahead and jump over to my screen here. So here we are just in search and reporting. So we can go over to dashboards. We can create a new dashboard here. And you're going to see we have Classic Dashboard and Dashboard Studio. And for today's demo, we're going to be using Splunk provided demo data. So we're going to be acting like we're making a sales report dashboard. And so we're going to go ahead and choose Absolute. We can create that here. It's going to load us up the next page. And you can see this is the base layout, the base canvas for Dashboard Studio. So you have the toolbar that we looked at here, and this is the configuration panel. Pretty much anytime you click on anything within Dashboard Studio, a configuration panel will open. This is for the main canvas. You can see we have display mode, height and width, background color. We can click through here. It'll change the background color for us if we want. We're going to go ahead and make that transparent again. We can choose a background image to upload. And we have a couple of other options, preferences if you're able to view the show the edit button whenever you're viewing the dashboard, open and search button, export button. These are all now button click easy. So we're going to go ahead and upload an image, another demo image here. And you can see this is now the background of our dashboard. Anytime you're in the Dashboard Studio and you want to see what your dashboard looks like if you were to click on it from a link, we can click the view button and we can see our dashboard here. And you can see it's a little long. So luckily we can go back to edit, change the canvas height. We'll put it to 650. We'll save that and we'll view. And you can see it fits much better. So that is the quick and easy way to edit the dashboard canvas, upload a background image, and a little bit of overview of the first configuration panel. So we can look back at the editing toolbar. So here we can see the different kinds of visualizations we can create. We have those options there. We have the different inputs, it's time range, number, text, multi-select dropdown. We have different icons. And so you have these default Splunk icons. You can actually upload your own icons as long as they're in SVG format. So if you have custom icons for your business, you're able to upload those and use those within your dashboard. Shapes, right now there's just ellipse, right, rectangle, and line. You can upload an image. You can add an image to the background of your dashboard. You can see you'll be able to add an image there. And then we have markdown text. So we can go ahead and make this a title. We can put sales report, and we bolded it there. And as you can see, it pops up here. We are able to freely move this around the dashboard. So we'll go ahead and put that there, make it look like a little bit of a title for us. And global time range is there by default. We're going to go ahead and leave that there. And we're actually going to change the default value to all time, just based off the time that I uploaded the data into my system. It needs to be all time to catch it all. So we'll go ahead and start looking at visualizations. So visualizations in Dashboard Studio, you have two ways to create those. You have kind of the more roundabout way and then the easier way that you'll likely use more. I'll go ahead and show the more roundabout way first. And to do that, we will go to Data Overview right here. And you can see we now have create a search, save searches, or create a chain search. For now, we are going to click create search. We can give it a name. We'll leave it search one for now. And let me get my search here. So like I said, this is Splunk demo data, and this is web sales, successful purchases, and then we're piping that to a stats count by category ID. So we can go ahead and tell it to use the global time range, which is going to be going from this. We click apply and close, and our search is created there. So if we know that from here, we want a column chart, we click column. I can move it over to here. We can change the size. We can move it wherever we want. Whereas classic dashboards, you have rows or columns. That's the only way you can line up your visualizations. Here, we can move it about freely wherever we want. So we'll put it about right here. And you can see whenever you create a visualization, it asks for a new data source. We already have a data source. So we're going to go ahead and click cancel. And we're going to see this data configurations, set up primary data source. We can click that. We click our search, and it is going to automatically run that search here. It'll take a second to pop up the results. And there's our results there. So we can give it a title, sales by category. The title will pop up at the top here. And you can see now, for example, if I click out of it, we're back at the configuration panel for the canvas overall. If I click into the visualization, now we have the configuration panel for the visualization. So you can see a couple of the options we have here: position, size, background color. And here we can actually make it transparent, make it a little bit more seamless with the background image itself. And we can change the axis title and y-axis title, the x and y-axis title, from the UI itself now. We don't have to pipe to a rename command to make category ID look a little more professional. We can just go ahead, type it in there, and do count here. And we can see it creates that automatically. We can change the legend position if we want, truncation settings. We can add a drill down to set tokens. We will look at that a little bit later. And then a huge part of Dashboard Studio I want to point out now is this code section. So everything you create in Dashboard Studio is going to have this code section. It's going to show the background code for this visualization itself. And most importantly, it's going to show this visualization ID. Data sources will have the same thing. It'll just be a data source ID. And by default, everything created in Dashboard Studio is going to have a random collection of numbers, letters as their ID. And once you get into a really complex dashboard, if we sneak over to source code real quick, you can kind of see we have these visualization names, data source names, and it doesn't really have any meaning behind it. So you can imagine if you have a dozen visualizations, a dozen different searches, it's going to be pretty hard to understand what you're looking at in the back end. So what I recommend, everything you do within Dashboard Studio, you go ahead and edit this ID. So we do viz, and we can do category chart. We can go ahead and do that for the title as well. It's going to have the same thing, markdown text. We can do viz title and the search itself as well. We're going to go ahead and change that to category count. You can name it whatever you want, as long as it has DS before it, DS underscore for data sources, and viz underscore for visualizations. We'll click apply and close for the data source. And if we go back into the source code, you can now see that this is a lot more comprehensible. Now we know, oh, this is the category, this is the chart category. This is our category count search. So it's very useful, especially once you get really into creating large dashboards, to have that naming convention started. And so we have done the visualization by doing the data source first. We can go ahead and show a different method. We can go ahead and delete that. We can go ahead and delete that as well. And this is the method that you're most likely going to be doing more often. We can go ahead and just add a visualization. We'll do the same column chart. We'll stick that on over here, make it a little more lined up. And whenever it's new data source, we can just enter in the search right here. Just leave everything the same, apply and close, and it's automatically there and created. So the way that we looked at first, where we created the data source first, if you're going into a dashboard and you know, I want to use searches 1 through 6, let me go ahead and create those. I can kind of mess around with different visualizations pretty easily if I create them first and kind of assign them from there. But for the most part, you're likely going to be using the second method. And anytime we do this, again, we want to rename category chart. And we will rename the search as well. Category total. And we'll apply and close here. And you can see on the, here, we're going to make this background here. So that is the main part of, I actually may have messed with the code here. There we go. Just took a second. So that is the main way to add visualizations. And again, we have a number of different visualization options to choose from. Next off, we are going to be looking at chain searching. And to do that, we're going to add a single value visualization here. And so it's going to automatically, again, bring up this new data source. You cannot create a chain search from this page itself. So we're going to go ahead and click cancel. We're going to set up primary data source. And then we're going to click this create chain search button. So if we click that, we have a data source name again, and we choose a parent search. So this is essentially the same thing as using a base search that's pretty often used in XML dashboards. So we can choose search one. It shows us the SPL of that parent search. We can see it, but we can't edit it. And then we can go ahead and enter in the rest of the search here. So the benefit for this is that it only has to run that base search once, and then we can use those results, filter on them whatever way we need to for a variety of different searches in the future. So it helps save that CPU usage within your dashboard itself. So we can go ahead and pipe to search. Let's just say we're setting up a single visualization for just arcade sales. All right, and if I can spell arcade correctly, it'll work. We're going to go ahead and change the name here. Arcade sales. We're going to apply and close. And we can go ahead and give it a title. Arcade sales. And we'll go ahead and rename it here as well. We'll just name it arcade. So that is the basis of chain searching. Is now it's going to be using this base search that powers this visualization, and then it's filtering on those results to power this. So it's not running this base search again to get these results. It's just filtering on the results it already has. Excuse me. So then we can look at something that is Dashboard Studio exclusive. Actually, before I do that, just because I like it, I'm going to make that transparent to blend in with the background some more there. So we are going to look at adding icons. So adding icons is something that is exclusive to Dashboard Studio, and particularly in Dashboard Studio Absolute Layout mode. So we can select an icon here. And icons can be used as a really easy visual reference of results, because you can tie these icons to searches. So you can see if we set up a primary data source and we add search 2, it's going to be using these same results. And if we were to add a trend value, we can make this so that it gives us a value, and we'll do 3 here. So say if it's over 300 in sales, that's considered green. If it's between 100 and 300, that's yellow. Less than 100 is red. So you can see that this visualization, has now turned green because it is over 300, as we can see here. So it's just a very easy way that you can put a red, yellow, green light on values using icons within your dashboard itself. And we can actually set up the dynamic trend here as well. And I just use light colors because I think they're pop a little bit more, but you obviously have a lot of customization in the way that you want to set up these dynamic trends. And then we'll change that to there. So that is tying icons to searches. The same thing can be done with shapes. They can be tied to searches as well. It doesn't have to use the same search that a different visualization is using. It can use its own unique search as well. So that is something that is exclusive to Dashboard Studio. So we'll go ahead and move on to setting tokens. So in this demo, we're going to set tokens in 2 different ways. So the first way will be on click of a visualization. The second way will be through an input. So first off, we are going to set a search that is going to use this token. So we'll set up a single value icon or visualization here. And if you caught me here, you would know that I did not rename this. So we will do icon. And so we have the single value visualization. We're actually going to set up a primary data source for it. We're going to create a new chain search because this is going to be one that uses this as the base, but it's going to use the token for the results. So we can name it search 3. We're going to use search 1 as the parent. And I already know I want to set a token called category. So I can set the category ID, and whenever you set a token, you're going to call it with the money sign. So we set category ID equals category. We're going to set that here, and it's going to say it needs a valid data source. And that's because we don't have a token set right now. So we're going to go ahead and save. Forgot to mention that saving constantly as you're working in your dashboard, definitely recommend doing that. It's easy to lose things. It's easy to mess around with things and they break. Glitches are always something that could pop up. So definitely save constantly. We're going to rename this as token viz. All right, and to actually set the token here, we are going to add a drill down. So we're going to select the visualization itself, click add drill down. So on click, you can link to a custom URL. You can link to a different dashboard within Splunk itself. Or as you can see, what we're going to do, we're going to set a token. So here we're going to set another token. And we know that we want to name it category. And when we click here, it's going to give us 3 options: the name, the value, or the row field name value. So here we want to make it where whenever we click one of these bars, it's going to set that token. So we're going to do the field name value, and then we just tell it which field name we're setting for. That's category ID. You just go ahead and click apply. We can save. And we can say, let's see, simulation. We go ahead and click that. You can see this is about to run the search here. And it should give us the 246 for simulation. All right, so it's going to take a second to run here. Yep, we do shooter 245, 246 for simulation. It's not wanting to run that one as quickly, but you can see clicking on a couple of the other ones, we can get, my computer's running a little slow, I apologize. We can get the values here, and a way to see what your token is set as, you can actually use it in your title as well. So we can put category sales. And so we can see that this is now the sales of that token. So if we were to click through here, we can now see it selects as accessory sales. So that is a good way to set a token on click. Another way is we can set it as an input. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this token from the visualization, and we'll go ahead and select a drop-down input. And it's going to open up the drop-down configuration panel here. We know the token name we want is category. I do not want any static values. And to set up the selection here, we're going to go ahead and set up primary data source. And we're going to choose this one that's powering this, because these categories here are what we want to be able to select in our dropdown. So we're going to go ahead and click that. We're going to have none for default values. So it's now going to be select a value. We can click save here. And if we view the dashboard and we choose simulation, you can see the token is still being used. It is just now set from this drop-down menu. So those are the 2 ways that tokens can be set within Dashboard Studio. You can have a number of different tokens. It does not have to be one or the other. You could put a different token here, a different token here. So the possibilities are pretty wide and varying there. But those are, I was just setting the same token in 2 different ways. And so now I can show you here. Let's make sure, did we rename this one? We did. And so now I'm going to show you a little bit more advanced function of Dashboard Studio, and that's going to be source code editing. And so source code editing is a way that you can make your visualizations, data sources do things that are a little above and beyond what you can do in the UI. And one thing that you can do is set default behaviors for different types of visualizations, data sources, that kind of thing. I'm going to show you here how to set up default behavior so that every single value, so if we were to make a single value data source, or a visualization rather, I want it to use this same dynamic major value trend. Instead of setting them each individually, I want to make it where whenever I create one, it automatically uses that. Because you can imagine if you have 10 or 12 dynamic or single value visualizations, setting up that dynamic range each time can get pretty tedious. So we'll go ahead and create one more here. We are going to put it beside here. We're going to use this as a chain search. We're going to use search one again, and we're going to pipe again to category ID equals, let's say, sports. And then we can say sports stats. So as you can see, these are not using the dynamic trend value, but they're about to be once we look at source code editing. So we can go ahead and click on source code, and we showed it a little bit earlier. And actually, I'm going to head back here because again, I'm going to make this a little easier on myself and name that sports. And we can go back to source code here. So here you can see we have our long line of JSON on the left. On the right, we have our quick navigation bar. You can see kind of a zoomed out version of what it looks like. And over here, whenever you're in between the text itself and the numbers, the line numbers, we can see these little arrows. This easily lets you close and open sections. So I can show you, if we close these sections, this is the basic layout of the source code for Dashboard Studio dashboards. You start with visualizations, you have data sources, you have your defaults, your inputs, and your layout. Each one's pretty accurately named in what they do. So what we're going to want to look at is defaults here. And so we can see our defaults, the only one we have set right now is this: all data sources are going to be using this global time range earliest and latest. So what we want to do is we want to set a new default for all Splunk single value visualizations. So we can actually see we don't need this. We don't need this. We do want arcade, because arcade is right now where we have set our trend value. So we can see that is right here. And so when we go down here, a good thing to point out is that whenever you click one of the squiggly lines, it's going to show you where that ending one is. So you can see this ends here. It's data sources, and you can kind of think, oh, data sources, visualizations, data sources, defaults. It's going to be on the same line as data sources. We're going to set up visualizations. And a very, very useful thing to point out is you're going to see the squiggly red line. You're going to see a red line across the preview over here. And if you try to go back, that means you have an error somewhere in your syntax. If you try to go back to your editing page, it's not going to let you until you fix that error. So it's very, very helpful to know that this is not going to let you ruin anything. It's going to want you to fix that before you go back. And if you hover over what the red line is, it's going to tell you what the problem will be. So it's going to expect a comma because it's going to be a new section. We're going to add a comma over there. It goes away. So that's perfect. And now if we wanted to, we could go back. So we're going to go ahead and jump back in here. Close these up again, except for the arcade. All right, actually, we're going to leave these two open. We're going to close these other visualizations. We're going to close all of the data sources, all of the inputs, and all of the layout. So from here, we have our visualizations. And you can see next on visualizations comes options. So we're going to kind of show this major color editor. We're going to call it here in options, and we're going to give it the context here within the context. So these are the two things that we need here to set that as a new default. So in visualizations, we're going to go options. And we can actually copy and paste this right here. We know that it's going to stay the exact same. We can go down here and add context. You can see it is angry at us again. We can see what it is. It expects a comma. We'll give it its comma, and it's happy again. So then we know context. We're going to want this major color editor config. We want to make sure to set it after the context. Major color editor config. And this will be a square bracket. We will do a curly bracket, and then we can copy these values. Make sure they're set up correctly here. We can do another one, and we'll actually do a comma here. Set the second one. We'll give it a comma because we're going to add one last squirrely bracket. And we are going to add that there. As you can see now, we are matching this. We have the context. We're calling major color editor config. We're making sure the major color is there. And now this is under our defaults for all. And I missed one single thing here. And that is going to be calling out which visualization it's going to be used for. So this will actually be Splunk dot single value. So this lets us know which visualization type. So this will actually, apologies, that's an oversight on my part there. So we can do that here. We can take this back one. We can take this back one, move it up. Move all these up one. And there we go. Move that up. There we go. And then one more here. And then we are good to go there. So then if we go back, you can see we have an error here. And that is because it is mad at what I did here. And actually, I am going to copy and paste from a different one. Actually, let me make sure I've got everything correct here. There's our problem. Our options are ending too soon. Actually, no, it's not. Context is good there. Visualizations on the data source. A good thing is that these lines line up for each individual thing, so you can kind of make sure that everything is in its proper spot. So everything's looking good there. Everything's looking good there. 1, 2, 3. And you can see that this actually needs one more. We go up, we actually need one more here. And that should take away our error. Correct there. Make sure everything looks good. So if we go back to our main page here, we'll let these rerun. And you can see now it is automatically using these dynamic trend values without having to set it manually. And you can see in the code section, it automatically calls that now because that is in the defaults. So that is a way that we can save some time. Obviously, I fat fingered it a little bit, but that happens to everyone. But it can save you a lot of time. So anyone I make in the future, it is going to automatically use that automatic trend value. So that is a very, very easy way to set default behaviors within the dashboard itself and kind of be able to edit that and do that without having to do it individually. It saves you a lot of time in the future. So that is the basics of Dashboard Studio. We have the configuration panel, the input panel. We've set up visualizations. We've set up data sources. We've set up chain searches. We've used icons and tied those to individual searches. We've used single visualizations. We've edited the default values of the config file or the source code to create default behavior that was not existing before. So that is a huge introduction to the introduction to Dashboard Studio, a lot of the new features that are added, and a lot of the ways that you can create what you're used to in classic dashboards within Dashboard Studio itself. And so, like I mentioned, Dashboard Studio is being constantly updated. A year ago, when I went through a similar process, setting tokens was something that hadn't been added yet. And that's a pretty vital part of dashboarding. So it's consistently being updated, getting that feature parity with classic dashboards while expanding on it beyond that. So in the future, you'll be able to do even more things with it. And Splunk has a documentation page on their website itself called appropriately What's New in Dashboard Studio. And it'll tell you whenever a new version of Splunk is released that has a new addition to Dashboard Studio. It'll tell you what that is, what version it's in, and how to use it. So definitely recommend checking that out whenever new versions of Splunk come out. As you can see here, the last time new things were added were 9.0. I believe we're at 9.0.4 now. So nothing new recently, but very much thinking that in the future there'll be definitely a lot more, because this is kind of the future of what Splunk wants to do with dashboarding. So that is a kind of an overview of Dashboard Studio, getting set up on everything you need to do with a little bit of advanced back-end source code editing work. Any questions you have now, I am happy to answer them. If you can't think of anything right now and in an hour something pops into your head, definitely support@kinnygroup.com. You can ask us any questions there, and we will be happy to get back to you and answer those.
If you have any questions, you can drop them in the Q&A section. If not, thank you for participating and listening to this Lunch and Learn. I hope you were able to get some good information from here. And thank you very much, Eric, for presenting this.
Yeah, no problem.
Wait just a minute here if there's any questions. Were you going to say something, Eric?
I was just going to say, reiterate again that if you can't think of anything, questions right now, and you do later, just always email us. We'll be happy to answer those for you.
Okay, well, no questions. Thank you, and everybody have a great day today.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for being here.